Are you telling me that women are paid less than men?
Yes.
So, I own a business, I employ countless people. If women are paid less than men, would it not be wise that I just employed women then? Because it would be more profitable just doing that.
That's a really good point, isn't it?
Today's guest is the awesome Emma Burdett, the CEO of WILD, which stands for Women in Leadership Deliver.
When we look at the way governments have been run, the way structures have been governed, it is a male-dominated society.
In my companies, there aren't. The highest paid people in my companies are women, so I don't get that.
When I got my final no, I hit my knees and I literally was like, I prayed for a miracle and I just was so desperate. I just don't know what I'm going to do.
With a rich background in media, public speaking and coaching, Emma has transformed countless lives and sparked a massive transformation among female leaders.
Women should take accountability and responsibility for our own careers.
Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of the podcast. Now I've got a favour to ask because I ask it at the beginning of every single podcast, but I really mean it. If you could subscribe, it would mean the world to me. The more subscribers we have, the better guests I can bring along. That's the first thing. Secondly, I want your feedback. I want you to tell me where I'm going wrong, what I could do better, what I'm doing right, and also tell me what guests you would like me to interview. If you could take 30 seconds of your time to do that, I would be eternally grateful. I will never ask anything of you again. Today's guest is the awesome Emma Burdett, the CEO of WILD, which stands for Women in Leadership Deliver. Emma is a dynamic leader and advocate for women's empowerment. WILD is an initiative dedicated to fostering growth, leadership, and empowerment amongst women. With a rich background in media, public speaking, and coaching, Emma has transformed countless lives and sparked a massive transformation among female leaders. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and uplifted as Emma shares her insights and her passion for empowering women to embrace their full potential. This is a conversation I'm sure you're not going to want to miss. So let's talk about the megaverse, the internet of people. Shaping the next iteration of the internet, Megaverse is powered by revolutionary blockchain technology built on decentralized community ownership. It offers users, brands, and businesses a seamless, regulated, and transparent opportunity for growth, revenue, and community building. Megaverse is accelerating user adoption and achieving these goals through multiple verticals like Megachain, a high-performance blockchain for tamper-proof transactions, Megafile system for encrypted decentralized storage, and Mega Studio, which democratizes development through collaborative and AI elements. Organizations across industries like Dubai Multi-Commodities Center, Dubai World Trade Center, and Ras Al Khaimah government have already explored the lucrative potential of a Megaverse presence. Megaverse enables users to create a Web3 future for the people where technology serves human purposes. Dive in and discover the Internet of People with Megaverse today. Emma.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming to join us today on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we've both been in Dubai a long time, haven't we?
Yeah, a long time.
I'm in 20 years in January and you're 11 years. It's been a long time. So you kind of like came across my radar some time ago when a mutual friend of ours said to me, you need to meet Emma.
Yes.
And I'm like, who the bloody hell's Emma?
Yeah.
So the gorgeous Nick Pigeon was kind enough to make an introduction.
Yes.
But finally, we've got you on the show. And today I want to talk to you about some things that I find kind of difficult to deal with. Mm-hmm. Okay. But also for you to share your journey and help us understand why you eventually got into what you got into.
Sure.
So first things first, why are you qualified to talk about women equality and inclusion in business?
So first of all, I am INSEAD qualified in gender diversity. So I think there's a trend at the moment, isn't there, which is fake leadership authority, where we're seeing any old person whack up a podcast. Obviously on LinkedIn, people can just pretend to be whoever they want to be. But I actually studied it. So I'm INSEAD qualified. So I believe that does give me some credentials to be able to speak about it professionally.
Okay, for the people that don't know what INSEAD is, please explain that.
It's one of the greatest universities in the world.
Mic drop, I'll read now. Any questions, send me an email. Okay, so a professional in dealing with this. So when we talk about women's equality and women's empowerment, it kind of like, it came as a bit of a wave, as a bit of a kind of like fashion thing for a period of time. Seems to have died down a little bit now, but there was this whole kind of like narrative of that you saw a lot on news channels and stuff as well, where there were certain women out there saying, women aren't paid the same as men, and it's not right, and women should be paid the same as men if they're doing the same job. And there became a bit of a furore around that kind of stuff, where you had certain people responding, going, well, hold on a minute, is that actually true when you do the numbers, okay, or is it not? And so I want to dive into that and understand more about that. So to give you some context, I come from a family where my dad went bankrupt when I was 7 years old. My parents got divorced, and my mum brought us up working 3 jobs, and she was an incredible human being that I looked up to and inspired me to go out and build a career of my own. I also have women in my business that are mainly leaders, that don't like the fact that they're women to have anything to do with their position and their level of success. They just want to be treated the same as, if they're doing well, it doesn't matter that they're a woman or a man, that you're just doing well. If they got the job as the CEO, it wasn't because there was some kind of corporate understanding that we need to include more women on the board and stuff like that. They got the job because they earned the job. So when we start talking about this kind of like women being included and women being empowered, I get a little bit frustrated, because I'm like, if someone's really good at their job and they get the job, it's because they're really good at the job. My mum was successful because she was good at what she did. Why do we have to shine a light on women?
So it's a really, really good question, and it's something that we get asked quite a lot doing the work that we do through Wild. So let's unpack some of the stats and facts, because then I think it's going to add a whole different context to the conversation. So it will take 260 years to close the gender pay gap. The World Economic Forum cites that the Middle East have a tremendous advantage with 115 years. But essentially, we won't see gender equality in our lifetime. I completely agree about the trend, the Women's Day, the pink washing, the balloons. We actually turned down 99% of jobs on International Women's Day because it's not a PR stunt. Women should be celebrated as much as, sorry, I can say that bit again. Women should be celebrated throughout the year. But also you touched on a really good point about, if a woman is put into that role, she can feel like it's because she's just a woman, and then that lends itself to tokenism. And ultimately, like we just said downstairs, it should be the best person for the job. Now, why we're seeing so much talk about gender equality and female empowerment is because the stats show that if we do have equal representation of men and women on a board, as an example, it leads to 26% more profitability. It leads to 35% increased productivity and innovation. So it's not a trend. There is actual factual data that back up why we should have equality, particularly at seniority level. McKinsey cite that if we achieve gender parity in the next few years, it adds something like 12 trillion USD to the global GDP. So if I was a man and I ran a business and I knew that by having true diversity in cross-functional teams is going to make me more profitable because money talks at the end of the day, that would be enough for me to take action on this.
You said that the gender pay gap would take how many years?
So globally, 260.
Okay, let's just take that for a minute.
Yeah.
So 260 years to make the gender pay gap equal or reduce it to zero. Are you telling me that women are paid less than men?
Yes.
They are, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Statistically.
Overall, yeah?
Overall.
Women are paid less than men. So I own a business. I employ countless people. If women are paid less than men, would it not be wise that I just employed women then? Because it would be more profitable just doing that.
That's a really good point, isn't it? I think we can only go on the stats, can't we, of what women are being paid. And when I think there were some reports done by all of the big tech companies in the US, like Google, Microsoft, and there are indices now where some companies are forced to report, and women are paid substantially less than men by these big corporates. So, yeah.
Okay, but if they're paying them less, why don't they just employ all women? It would be more profitable to do so. I need to understand that because that's for me where I get confused. It's like if there's this pay gap, then let's just employ loads of women. Because if we're clinical business people focused purely on shareholder profits and nothing else, then you'd be a numpty not just to employ women if they're paid that much less.
So you're from the UK.
Yeah.
I'm from the UK.
Uh-huh.
A lot of my career was in the real estate market.
Right.
In Mayfair. And you're probably familiar with the Old Boys Network.
I'm familiar with the term.
Yeah.
I've never been part of an Old Boys.
No, I wasn't.
You saying I'm old?
I wasn't accusing you of being in it, but you get the context of what I'm saying. So that market is a great example where the patriarchy governs business. So Jack will ring John, old white men, and I've got nothing against older white men. And they'll be like, hey, this deal's come on, it's going for this price per square foot, and the deals will be done and women aren't involved in that exchange. So when we look at the way governments have been run, the way structures have been governed, it is a male-dominated society ran by a patriarchal structure. So what that means is Jack will ring John for a job, and women aren't being considered. Women aren't sometimes being brought to the table.
But purely on nothing else alone, on the fact that you can have babies and we can't, and if we go back to the Old Boys Network of, let's say, 50 years ago, what am I? I'm 54, so let's say the 70s and 80s, because that's where it was kind of like predominantly accepted as the norm. Were there more men at work than women?
Yeah, definitely.
So if there are, and I don't know what that breakdown is about the percentage in any company on average, how many were men and how many were women, okay, across the company. Do you?
I don't know the actual stats on that, but if we look at the olden days, men were the breadwinners and women were the primary caregivers.
Yeah.
So this is where this has actually come from, is that the men got up and went to work and provided for the family, and the women stayed at home and looked after the children.
Yeah.
But actually the stats say that the average man is more nurturing than the average woman. But the concept that we have and the programming that we have subconsciously is that when we think of leaders, it's think leader, think man. And that's just the way it is.
Think parent, think mum.
Could be.
If we break this down, I got divorced from my first wife after 5 years of marriage, and I was told under no uncertain terms I would not be the primary caregiver. So that we look at what goes against women, but what we have to do, I believe, is balance what goes against everybody. Rather than let's fight for the women's rights, let's fight for everybody's rights, for everything to be fair in all parts. And then I think if it was that way, I think everyone would come together much better, because John would say, well, I'm not getting this, and Kelly would say, well, I'm not getting that, and Peter would say, yeah, but I'm not getting that. If that was fair, then we'd feel fair. And I think that there's, and this is me only, and so Emma, this is purely my opinion, and if I'm offending anybody that's consuming this content right now, it is my opinion based upon my life experience and nothing else. I'm not NCAD qualified here. Okay, Emma is, and so we'll take her data as gospel. But my feeling is, number one, if there's a gender pay gap, well, okay, let's just employ more women. It'll be better for business. It'll be better for my business. I'll make more money. There isn't a gender pay gap anywhere I see it. In my companies, there aren't. The highest paid people in my companies are women. So I don't get that. My mum gave birth to me in 1970. In 1977, my dad goes bankrupt. I get divorced. My mum has to go out and build her own career. She did that. I didn't see her faced with challenges. In fact, I used to sit as I explained to you off camera earlier, that my mum felt she had a distinct advantage in business. And so when we look at this, what's being fought for here that's not fair and even and equitable, and give me some like real examples of what we can do, okay, to make it like that, because I don't want to be the person that sits there bar humbugging and stuff, okay, and missing the point. Yeah, I want to be convinced. And I think a lot of people out there might be in that place. And yes, we're here in the Middle East, we're here in Dubai, and things are different to what you and I know from coming back from the UK. But you bet your bottom dollar I'd never go back and live there. So I feel we're in a better environment here, but you tell me.
So what's the question?
So I want to know, you're telling me there's 200 odd years before the gender pay gaps reduced. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And if women are paid less, do you agree, if you and I owned a company, if women are paid less and we were caring only about profit, the smart thing would be just to employ women?
I think there is a lot of ego that's involved, a lot of male ego. And it's not about, one being paid more than the other. It's about allyship. It's about working together and bringing an inclusive environment. So like you say, it's about, working together.
Explain that to me. Working together. How are we not working together?
So I can speak about my own experience. So when in 2006, I worked in selling real estate software, and I was a team of 22 boys, and I was the only girl. And it just so happened that I was the top performer. But because of the nature of the real estate market, the boys were doing deals with the boys. So when I used to sit in a meeting of any capacity, and there was 9 boys and me, I was spoken over in meetings, I was discredited for my ideas, and then James would be actually taking my idea and running with it as if it's his own. So when we look at the meeting room scenario, if we were to have equal representation and actually created space where all of us could be heard, not just the women or the men, that's really what working inclusive means. When we look at the Gender Index report as an example, there's only 2% of women on boards in Saudi and 11% in the UAE. So it means that women aren't included in decision making. They're not included in the policy making. It's generally governed by men.
Okay. Doesn't matter what percentage of men and women are on boards, it should be the right person for the job, shouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it did. But the reason why we talk about equity is because it's about harnessing the different skill sets that men and women have. We possess completely different thought processes, completely different skill sets, that when they're brought together, it makes for a greater output. So we worked with a big engineering company, and they did an experiment. They didn't tell the teams that they were doing this. And one was a cross-functional team, which was diverse with all different race, ethnicity, gender. And one was non-diverse. I don't know if it was all men or not, but it was non-diverse. The team, which was diverse, the results on the projects that they worked in were lightning fast. Because people with different race, ethnicities, culture, religion add completely different context, completely different, thoughts to, let's say, a collaborative process.
Well, let's go back to one point before. You said you were one lady in an office of 10 and 9 others, okay?
22 boys.
Sorry, 22 boys.
Yeah.
But in a meeting room, you said...
Yeah, in the meeting, yeah.
If that meeting room was 9 women and 1 man, would the same thing not happen?
I've not actually thought of it like that, because I've never seen that or heard of it ever even happen.
But just hypothetically. If you had a room with 10 people in it, 9 of them were women, 1 was men, they were all working together. The man was the top salesperson, like you were the woman as a top salesperson. What do you think those 9 women would be doing with that 1 man?
I think they probably would talk over him, wouldn't they? He'd probably be a bit bullied.
So this to me leans into the fact that it's not about, it's about, I suppose, fairness.
Yeah.
More than it is about women empowerment. It's about fairness, but it's also a case of looking at your business and deciding how you can get the best out of your business. If you and I owned a business, okay, and we were both ladies, we would care about, more importantly, how that business can make money and be profitable for our futures.
Yes.
That's where our starting point would be.
Absolutely.
Now, down the road, we'd be thinking more about the people. But at the beginning, it would be like, how can we be the number one in our space, yeah? And if we were two guys, same thing.
Yeah.
Okay? How can we be the best in our space? And as male and female, the same thing. How can we be the best? Now, if we were me and you went, Spence, the way we build this company to be the best X, Y, and Z is we just have all women, okay? That would be the best thing for the business. Okay, are you in agreement for me? And you showed me some numbers confirming that, I wouldn't be arguing with that. I'd be like, that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. And if we were recruiting for, let's say you and I needed an operations director, let's just keep that the role function at the moment, doesn't matter what it is. We wouldn't be recruiting thinking we need a man or woman. You and I would be like trying to find the best person possible to execute upon our business model and strategy in our company, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about the best person for the job. And I really, really do agree with that. And I do feel that the whole women's empowerment thing is becoming a little bit tiresome. It's about inclusivity and it's about equity, regardless of race, ethnicity, or gender.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when it's about equity, I'm on board with you.
Yeah.
But I think also a lot of these stats come from corporations where the numbers are big, as in the number of employees is big. Most of business in the UK and in the UAE is small business. You know, it's kind of 10 to 50 employees. And when you're at that kind of size, you know, as business owners, you and I are flying by the seat of our pants, you know, from week to week. Sometimes, you know, can we make payroll? You know, are people going to get a bonus this year? You know, can we afford to put apples in reception? Do you know what I mean? It's like the decisions are, we're nimble, but, you know, we could have 3 clients and one of them could be 90% of our revenue for our business.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very real situation. And so we only care about making sure we don't lose that client.
Yeah.
You know, not whether we've actually, you know, considered equity, inclusion, you know. And, you know, we need someone to come in and be a copywriter for us. It's just like, who's the best copywriter, you know. And I think that when you're in a big corporation, I think that kind of, that information is processed more. But the vast majority of us aren't.
Yeah.
And so maybe we don't feel that, you know. My company's an SME. As much as I have a business, I'm not 50,000 employees.
Yeah.
And so no one bats an eye that I've got a CEO that's a woman, no more than they would if it was a man. Okay. Are we on the same page similarly? Are we kind of like, are we far apart?
I think we're agreeing, aren't we? I think when we look at the gender equality and the movement, for example, when men, for example, understand what the stats and facts are that I've just given you about profitability, about increased productivity and increased innovation, generally they're on board with it. But I'm so shocked when we do talks about unconscious bias or, you know, we get men eyes roll, you know, another women's network. And of course we get pushback all the time. Why is it just women? Why have you just got a women's network?
Yeah.
But when you break it down, this is the hard stats of the profitability. They go, oh, the penny drops. So it's about creating awareness, isn't it? That this is actually beneficial and good for business if we did have equity and fair and equal representation.
If you showed me a spreadsheet that showed by doing it a different way could make my business more profitable and our company more money, and A was equitable and B wasn't, and A was more profitable, then there's a no-brainer decision to be made, isn't there? So then why, okay, if women are paid less than men, do women have a problem answering the question of why we just don't employ all women if women are paid less? If I've got a CEO and their salary's 100, whatever it may be, okay, and it's a female and it's 95, and the male it's 100, if that's the, I don't even know what the breakdown would be, but let's just take that as a mad guess. Why would a business not just employ women?
I think you should advocate for it.
I mean,
Sounds brilliant. I need you doing a talk at Wild. I mean, it's a great way to look at it. And I've actually never even thought of it from that context. But of course, it would make sense if business heads did look at it that way, that it's going to save them a lot more money in the long run and be more profitable. But unfortunately, that isn't the way the world is.
Well, there's a few things we have to consider as well, I suppose. And these are real challenges because one of my businesses is a medical insurance business. And so medical insurance means companies have to pay by law here and they have to insure their staff. So what's one of the biggest costs that comes across the table with medical insurance? Pregnancy. And so if you employ people into a business and they get pregnant, the insurance pays for their pregnancy, which is fine. But the following year, the premium on the insurance goes up. So it makes the insurance more expensive. But also, let's say you and I had a company of 5 employees, okay? And we were a very small business and somebody got pregnant that joined the company 3 weeks ago. We're then going to have to pay for that person and pay for somebody else to come in and do their job as well, which could be really risky for our cash flow in our business. It could potentially bankrupt us if we didn't have the capacity to be able to pay for that. Should companies consider that too?
I think we need to have flexible work structures for working women because we can't just say, oh, she's pregnant now, so that's going to cause us a massive business headache and we've got a hole in our cash flow. You know, I think it's about having flexibility and understanding that, you know, it's okay for women to have a career break and have children.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think women are going to feel like frightened to tell their boss, you know, that they might be planning for a family. A great company that I've seen who are exemplary and at the forefront of this sort of work is Visa, the fintech company. They actually employ pregnant women. So
why?
Because I think it sets a precedent that women can still have children and be in the workplace.
Okay, let's just unpack that for a minute. So they employ. Do you know what that to me feels like it's a box ticking exercise. So I'll give you some examples because I've been through this. My PA, her name's Sarah, okay? She might have communicated with you through this process of getting you on the show. Sarah's been with me now for 18 years. My business partner, Danielle, she's been with me, she's the CEO, she's been with me for 19 years, okay? Both of them got pregnant within 3 weeks of each other. Oh. Literally, right at the beginning of setting this company up, I got a phone call from one of them saying, I'm pregnant. And I got a phone call from the other one saying, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, you're kidding me.
We got the response they wanted.
Literally, it's like, but they also got pregnant with their second child, okay, very close to each other too. And I'm like, what? Now, the fact is that they're epic human beings. They are part of the fabric of this business, just as I am. And they had their kids, took their desired amount of maternity leave and got stuck back into the business. And they are the backbone of this company. They really are the backbone of this company. So again, I personally, with having people pregnant around me, haven't experienced problems. But if I was on a really tight budget, and I just set my company up and I've got 3 employees or 5 employees and you and I are business partners, surely if someone at the interview stage says, you know, I'm pregnant, we're going to go, can we afford somebody to be at, what's maternity leave allowances nowadays? What are they? In the UK, I mean, Sweden, it's a year. In the UK, it's 6-7 months. Here it's
about 6 weeks, isn't it? It's not even that long.
Okay, 6
weeks to a couple of months, yeah.
Okay, I suppose you can manage for 6 weeks. And these are the things that I think that when people sit around a table, sometimes they're frightened to discuss.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that you and I sat here right now. There's no one that can tell us not to discuss it. So that's why I want to have that.
Yeah, I love it.
We don't have to feel uncomfortable that someone's going to be sitting there going, "Oh, you're not dealing with inclusivity," or you know what I mean. It's just like there's an honest conversation here because I think I represent, you know, the average man in many respects. Okay. you got onto this journey through going through an experience yourself.
Yeah.
And like all of us that get really passionate about something, we often have experienced some form of trauma in some way that's made us go, no, never again, or I'm going to do something about this. You know, the famous lady 3 years ago that won Weight Watchers Slimmer of the Year, she lost like 40 kilos or something. She was sat outside of McDonald's eating a burger, and 2 kids went by on their mountain bikes and they threw their burgers through the window at her and they said, hey, have some of that, fatty. And she said in that moment, never again. She was so ashamed of herself, never again. And that never again moment that came to her, was never. It's sometimes like the person that's a smoker and they go and sit down with the doctor and he says, one more cigarette and you're going to get cancer. And it's like, that's strong enough for people to take a completely different direction or stand up and fight for something they believe in.
Yeah.
So share with me what happened to you.
Yeah, so it's quite the story, but I will say that my passion has really derived from the fact that throughout the course of my career, and I'm mid-40s now, I have been bullied, fired, harassed, left out of the boys' club, fired more than once, which is probably why I'm now an entrepreneur, because I'm unemployable. But what has been good throughout that journey is, like you were saying...
Too good for them.
We're having an uncensored, conversation, but I've been now able to use that voice and controversy as a force for good. But going back to the story, so I worked for a big global business as part of the role as a CSR initiative. They said to me, how do you feel about starting a women's network? And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll take that on. And no one spoke about gender equality, female empowerment in 2017. So I literally started a women's group with a table, 4 women in corporate saying, right, we're going to do this women's network. I grew the women's network to 15 women, and it was actually really, really amazing to see that we were doing business amongst ourselves, we were sharing leads, opportunities, job roles, but it was kind of a bittersweet experience because I ended up getting bullied and then fired as a result of the Women's Network. So that sent me on a journey and trajectory of personal growth, I guess. That really was a rock bottom moment that, like you say, enough is enough, rock bottom, you've got nowhere else to go. And I took myself off to Thailand for my very own version of Eat, Pray, Love, except there was not any eating or loving. No eating.
Oh.
No, no eating.
You like Shirley Valentine?
Sorry, hold on.
Shirley Valentine.
I'm getting it all mixed up. Lots of eating, lots of praying, and absolutely no loving.
Don't you dare cut that out.
Oh, no. What happened was, because I was in such a bad mental health state, I went through all of this, trauma, self-sabotage, everything. Because when you're rock bottom, I'm sure might have had a couple yourself, you've got nowhere else to turn to, have you? You've got to really sit with self and unpack the wreckage of your past. But that actually was my breakthrough moment, and that cracked me open because that's where I really started to rebuild myself. I started working with coaches, investing in my growth and development, reading, having the healing, doing the trauma work, so on and so forth. But back to Thailand. So I got a final no from a job offer, and I remember being so full of fear, so consumed with fear, that I just couldn't see the wood from the trees, like Sutton. And literally, I had to leave my apartment in Dubai in the May, and this was the April. My visa had expired. I'd been in Dubai for 6 months, burning into cash, as you would here, without a job. And I got a final no, and I'd had this spiritual healer. Now, if people look at this and go, oh, she's bonkers, or what's that all about? This is the story. This is what happened. And the woman had said to me, look for the butterfly. It speaks of change and joy. Admittedly, I did think, what a load of old rubbish. But when I got my final no, I hit my knees and I literally was like, I prayed for a miracle. And I just was so desperate. And I just thought, I just don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I didn't want to move back to London. So I picked myself up. I walked outside to go down for breakfast and there were just butterflies everywhere. And I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, is this the change and the joy? But when I then walked into the breakfast hall, I just picked up a random magazine. It was a Marie Claire. And there was an article about gender equality. And it said in bold, if you have a platform to be able to make a difference, you should use it. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to go back to Dubai. I'm going to launch my own women's network. I'm going to call it Wild because I was so bored of this corporate, filtered, contrived, sterile conversations. And I wrote the concept for Wild from scratch. And we had our first event on the 19th of July, 2018. Over 100 women. I'd never done a keynote. I was absolutely terrified, sweaty hands and shaky knees and that lump in your throat. And that really was the start of it. It started building community. And obviously the rest is history and we can delve into that. But that earned me a contract with the United Nations in Saudi. And that's something that, having built a business from a breakdown, still bootstrapped, self-funded, I launched Wild with $300. I literally bought croissants from Spinners and took them to the venue. So, and now we're the fastest growing women's network in the GCC.
Are you? How many members do you have?
We've got a few thousand on our database. We launched in Saudi in 2022 as the first and only women's network, which, let me tell you, was an ambitious and courageous, frightening project.
Why?
Well, when we think that it's only 4 or 5 years that women in Saudi have been able to drive. And, I'd never been to Saudi. And when, throughout the course of Wild, lots of Saudi women were contacting me saying, when are you going to launch here? We need this, we want this. So I actually took the plunge. And I had a sponsor, a male friend of mine that had a business. And I remember standing in Riyadh immigration, having never been to Saudi, on my own, thinking, oh, I'm actually launching Wild Riyadh tomorrow. And for someone who is quite courageous and bold, I was really, really frightened. I think it was like the magnitude of it. And I did the first one and it was like 22 women. And then the PR literally exploded. And then 2 months later, we hired a gaming centre in Saudi. Now, obviously, esports is a male-dominated sector. Had like 130 women. It was just like, you do keynotes yourself, so you know that adrenaline. You're on stage. I got everyone standing up. It took me weeks to actually recover from that event. But it was so amazing to see and, to live in my purpose where I've got young Saudi females coming up to me saying to me, you're so inspiring. You're showing me what I can do. Yeah. And also, we're so grateful that you are giving us this platform, this community to come together and have voice. And that's never been done.
Does the Women's Network, are they aligned with what your ambitions are? Or do you find women kind of challenging internally some of the views?
That's a different conversation.
Okay.
So for me personally, my life's purpose, I want to make a difference. And I know that's a core value that you really, really have, without banging my watch on the table. When we look at Maria and the girls and the incredible work that you do there, I care about younger females not having to endure what I've endured throughout the course of my career. and I want to make a difference for them. So that's a part of who I am. It's a part of my core values. Another thing is as well is when we're growing up, women are really taught to see ourselves in like this quiet space. You know, like boys, they take charge, they're the leaders, it's okay for them to be boisterous. But girls, you know, like in my day, in my era, you know, if I spoke up, I was bossy. And no one wanted to be called bossy. So what we see now with so many women is this complete lack of confidence, a fear of being visible and putting ourselves out there, a fear of speaking up. And, you know, we can only blame the patriarchy and outdated systems and structures for so long, because women should take accountability and responsibility for our own careers. Get a good coach, go and have some healing, go and see a therapist. Even now, so many female leaders that we work with don't speak up, or they're so frightened of being visible. Now, obviously, doing the type of work that we do, you have to be visible. But I get it, even as an extrovert and someone who's a BD professional, when I first started putting myself out there, I was like really, really nervous. And that crippling fear of judgment, what are people going to say and what are people going to think? So my own personal motivation is to create impact and to show women that when they step up, we can be amazing leaders.
Morgan Freeman has been asked on a number of occasions about racism. Do you think that there's a white privilege in America? And he famously says there's no such thing. He said racism will stop being a problem if everyone stops talking about it.
Yeah.
He said, I'm a great example of a black person that's successful. He said, if we just stop talking about it and stop discussing anyone's colour, it won't become an issue. I look at this whole equity thing with women, and I think it's a playing field that women are getting into, but they want their cake and eat it in some parts of it. And so I'll give you some examples. Why don't women want to be in the army in the same numbers? Why don't women want to be bricklayers in the same numbers? Why do women choose to be nurses? Why do women choose to be PAs? I've never had a male PA ever come to an interview with me. And in my early years, I was a bit of a shit, so I had to get through a few of them.
I've lost a few myself.
It's like, I don't ever remember there being, and again, okay, I'm 54, so maybe I'm a bit older, but I remember them being called dinner ladies. I don't remember them being called kitchen assistants or dinner helpers. I always remember them as dinner ladies. I don't remember any, and the janitor was always a man, or the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that. If there's equity, then you have to fight for it everywhere.
Yeah.
And but you don't want to. Or women don't want to. It's like the boardroom needs to be evened out. The C-suite needs to be evened out. If the C-suite was evened out, well, the business could make more money. It's like, hold on a minute. That's a tiny part of a whole company. If you take into consideration the largest real estate brokerage here in Dubai, the C-suites, even if it can be called that, but the senior management team of that company probably consists of 10 people out of a company that employs 700. So what about the 690 other roles in the business? What about the women don't join the merchant navy the way that men do. Women don't choose to be truck drivers the way that men do. And it's like, we want more female plumbers. There should be more, but nobody wants to be a female plumber. Women don't want to be plumbers. And of course there are some, okay, but the vast majority of women are like, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in being a plumber. You know, I'm not interested in being an air traffic controller or whatever the job may be. So should it be just in this place that the attention is aimed at, or should it be everywhere? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it should be everywhere, but I also feel like the younger generations have taken it all a little bit too far.
Okay,
so
help me understand that.
Yeah, so if we look at like the Gen Z and the one below that. I don't know if you've got any of those working for you in your business.
Of course.
But they are radical reformists. And there's a whole sort of thing about the snowflake
generation, yeah.
The snowflake generation. My concern with this is there's no resilience, there's no work ethic. You know, like we've got work ethic. We work till we've got the job done. And they are so boundary driven that they won't do this, and they tell you when they're going to work, and you can't say, you know, it's got to be him or she and all of that, the pronouns. And I do feel like that has gone a little bit too far when we come to looking at equality.
So what has that got to do, though, with women fighting for this we need to be empowered? Okay, I love that word empowered. To me, that's a really cool word to use. Let's empower women, okay? But you can't be empowered just where you want to be empowered, because you can't pick and choose. That's not fair. And if you did have equity or a 50-50 board in lots of companies, lots of industries are industries where it's male-centric because it's a male thing, okay? You know, if you take two complete opposites, a hospital and a car factory, okay? More men want to work in a car factory than want to work in a hospital, okay, overall. We know that because the statistics tell us that. So if you put a 50-50 female board over here, it may not be the best thing for a car factory. And if you put a 50-50 board over here at the hospital, it also may not be the best thing for that business. So why do we... I've got to get my head around it because I want to support it.
Yeah.
Yeah? But I want to support it from you saying to me, Spence, these are the stats. Okay, great. So let's use that in every function in a business and make every function equitable. There should be more male PAs, for example. Yeah? There should be more female security guards. There should be more male nurses. I mean, I don't know what the breakdown of school teachers is, but I think it's more women than men as school teachers, but I don't know for sure. It's like this has all got to be equitable. And if it's not, then who are you fighting against? It's kind of like it seems like that movement, and not you, but that movement's almost fighting against itself. And you know, you've had a trauma, you've had a experience with some guy that was in simple terms, he was a dick to you. You know, he didn't lie. He felt threatened by you. You come on, you know, you done well. And probably all those years ago, you were probably a little bit more boisterous. I don't know, a little bit more a little bit like, you know, sticking two fingers up to him as well. Maybe, you know, you weren't sitting there prim and proper. I could tell by your character that wasn't happening. So it's felt threatened by you. You probably poked him a bit along the way and stirred something. Maybe, And it's got him to go, hold on a minute, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And so he sat and thought, you know, mulled over it, sat on it with a glass of wine on his sofa at night, going, oh, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get her for that, you know. And like completely unprofessionally, but sat in his mind thinking, who does she think she is coming to take my job? Now, you might have been oblivious to it. Who's taking your job? It's not me.
Yeah.
Okay. But some snidey comment from another man in the office would have gone, oh, you ought to watch out for her, mate. She'll have your job if you're not careful. And he's laughed at it as he's walked away from the coffee machine. But then he's driven home in the car that night and he's listening to something on the radio and they're like, women empowerment. It's, hold on a minute, I'm going to be out of work. Could be that, couldn't it? You know, that kind of stuff can happen for lots of people. It's just, my mum went out and made it happen.
Yeah.
Okay. In 1977, 50 years ago, she went out and made it happen. My CEO is a woman and hates this women thing. She just wants to be respected for being good at her job. Giving women a voice when they can just go and grab it. And just like Morgan Freeman says, if we just stop talking about it and get on, maybe it won't exist in the first place. Do you buy into that?
I mean, obviously our whole business is geared towards giving women a voice and an equal seat at the table. So that's what I staunchly believe in. I believe that we should have fair and equal representation, and it should be an opportunity at all levels.
Fair is okay. So in summary, fair and equal representation in all parts of the business.
Yeah, and look, there's no getting away from the fact that there are jobs, like we speak to oil and gas companies, where women are less inclined to want to go on a drilling platform. And that's just the nature of our bodies and how we're built, right? And so I don't think we're ever going to be able to deviate from the fact that some roles are more suitable for men and some are more suitable for women due to our genetic makeup.
Okay. So that's true.
Yeah.
Let's take those really rough, tough things then, okay? And then can women be plumbers and electricians and bricklayers?
Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, they can, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Can women be fire people?
Yeah, there are women firefighters.
I know there are, but okay. There's women everywhere in every industry. Of course there is, but it's that how equal that all is.
Mm.
So why aren't women saying no, more women bricklayers, for example? Why are they just going more equality on the board or in the C-suite? Why are they not going, no, we've got to fight for there to be more women bricklayers. It's got to be equal top to bottom. They do, but they don't.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. So they should. So let's have I want to come to you next talk and say, right, come on, we need to fight for every part of business.
You're the biggest advocate, aren't you? I love it.
Well, I find it really hard to be stuck in this place where it's just like, women need to be empowered. I don't believe they need to be empowered. I believe women are powerful as it is. I already believe that they're powerful.
That's you, isn't it? And your perception, and you're open-minded, and you've got a female CEO. But there are lots of people that don't think like you, and there are lots of people that don't see it that way.
How often do we say to men in the pub, can you put your trousers on or stop letting your wife wear them? Because somebody else is the boss in your house, yeah? And we say that in jest and as a joke and whatnot, but we say that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like who's in charge? How often, okay, is there a dinner party and out for dinner and someone's like, you're not in charge in your house, I'm not, or sit in the corner, I do what I'm told, you know? And you have that. It's just kind of like, I think we need to stop fighting for it and just start being it.
Yeah, be the change.
You know?
That's one of our biggest sayings through Wild.
Just be it. Just be it.
And also, I will say that the PR stunt, right? I mean, I actually boycott a lot of panel talks, as an example, because it's like, how many panels are we going to have where we're sat continually talking about the problem? Let's talk about the solution. Let's talk about what the solutions can be.
You know what? That means so much to me that you said that. I'm sick of people talking about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. Yeah. Because we all know that this...
Finally, that's something you like.
Well, I like it. No, I like Emma. I like everything you say. I really believe that. I really believe that. First of all, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and mine is just the same as anybody else's. It's an opinion, and you're qualified and have been to a great university to study this. But for me, yeah. Can we stop complaining and can we start fixing?
And I was recently at a business conference, mentioning no names of the one that it was. And first of all, they said, can you come and do a big talk about inclusive leadership? Yeah, I'd love to. Big audience, 600 people, great for the exposure. And then it was like, oh, we're pulling that. We want you to do a panel talk about breaking barriers and the glass ceiling. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So like I say, 99% of those, I say, no, I'm not doing it. Because I don't want to sit on a stage talking about, oh, you know, we haven't got fair and equal pay. We haven't got this. We haven't got that. The men get this. The men get that. So anyway, I went on this panel, Breaking Barriers. And it was a great discussion, to be fair. But then, much to my dismay, Spencer, all the other panel talks of the day were 4 and 5 men. Now, one, that's just absurd, because you're getting me to talk about gender equality and show up and share my knowledge and wisdom. And then all your other panels, we call them manels, are all men. So there's no diversity or gender equality. So it's poor performance.
Do you know what that is?
Do I know why it is?
Yeah, I know why it is.
Tell me.
The reason that these panels are mainly men, okay, and this is I know this, okay, because I've been in events and I work with events companies that even ask me, and I often get asked, have you got any women that are willing to come and do this? And women don't want to do it as freely as men. And I'll give you another example. I teach people how to make podcasts. Yeah? You want to know the drama that goes around getting a woman to get her face in front of a camera. I kid you not. I can have 5 women and 5 men in a room around a table for 2 days teaching podcasts where they pay me because they have asked me to teach them. So they have a desire and now they have to go on camera. And we get a million excuses. Okay? Oh, what about my hair? What about my makeup? What about this? What about that? I'm not wearing the right thing, not standing the right way. The light's the wrong way. Men just stand in front of the camera and talk. And I think a lot of this stuff that goes on with people on stage, you have extreme confidence, you're great at what you do, but guess what? You started somewhere, yeah?
Yeah.
And then the first time you did a talk on stage, you probably shit yourself like everybody else did,
Absolutely.
yeah? Okay, nothing abnormal there. But you persisted, okay? And it got you to where you are now. You stand on stage, and if you and I were going in front of 1,000 people tomorrow morning, we wouldn't even think about it, yeah? I'll see you there tomorrow, high five, have a good show, yeah? Women don't want to be on camera like men. Young women are quite happy to put their boobs and bums on social media, okay, which blows my mind. They'll happily do a selfie, but when it comes to giving some valuable content, everything else.
Yep.
I think exactly the same thing goes on panels, okay? I specifically have reached out on my podcast to get more women to come and talk about HR than men, okay? I specifically have done that. But if I just reached out to everyone in HR, the men are far easier.
They might be easier, but there are women available that will come and want to have the exposure of being on a panel. So I think...
Well, hold on. That's that little world that you live in with your coach and all those other people in that are into that kind of thing. But and you know, whoever, you know, I know a lot of them as well. Yeah.
Really.
So that little community of people.
Yeah.
Corporation here, Ford, General Motors, IBM, whoever it may be, they don't know this community. And so they go out to the people and like, hey, who have you got in your company that would like to come on stage and be a panel guest? And then it's like, oh, we've got a lady called Pauline. She's awesome. Pauline, would you like to come? Hold on a minute. I'm not doing that on stage, 600 people. But the guys are far easier to get because there's more of them to do it. So I think there is, if I'm honest, I think there's an element of that as well.
And that's why I said to you before, women need to take accountability and ownership for their own careers, you know, and it's not about men bashing and it's not about, oh, we don't get fair and equal opportunities. It's about going, okay, let's get out of our comfort zone. Let's learn, let's grow, let's invest in a good mentor so I can gain the confidence to be on camera, to speak up. But I do feel that women, there is a reluctance to invest in themselves. Everyone wants a result, but no one wants to do the work or make the investment to get there. But I don't believe that's just women. I think some men are like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone looks at my profile on LinkedIn and they're like, wow, you're amazing. You're so inspiring. What you've created is incredible. It's been blood, sweat and tears. I've made many sacrifices for my business. I've invested heaps in coaches and mentors to get it to the level that it's at. But people aren't prepared to do the work or make the investment.
Okay, so let's summarize by giving some people some advice, okay? So all of the ladies out there that are listening to this content right now, okay, let's give them 3 pieces of advice we can give them, okay, to get them from where they are, okay, to a more confident, more committed space, okay, to where they want to go. So where would we start by trying to empower women and give them some advice?
You've got to invest in a coach or mentor.
Okay.
That is going to massively change your whole career. How else are you going to learn the tips and tools otherwise? So our mutual friend is one of my mentors. She's shown me the ropes. She's shown me, how to implement various revenue streams for my business. I've also worked with coaches on public speaking. I've also worked with coaches on, just generally being visible. We need to have a coach or mentor. I'm sure you've had one. You are one as well, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. That's number 1. Number 2?
Number 2 is to really get uncomfortable and step outside of what is familiar. And you only learn by doing that on the job, right? Like you say, my very first keynote, I was absolutely terrified. And I work with women now myself to get out of their own way. What are we waiting for permission for? Get out of your own way, big girl pants time, and show up. Third bit of advice would be work on you like a full-time job. Invest in you. And I don't just mean coaches and mentors. I spend 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, on my own growth and development. That can be meditation, mantras, yoga, gym, affirmations, listening to an inspiring podcast. Because of the nature of my work, I need to be feeling good and make feeling good a number one priority. Because we all have those days where we wake up and we're like, ugh. But when we're feeling good, when we're showing up, when we've had a good night's sleep, when we're nurturing ourselves and our well-being, we're magnetic. So many women that we work with, particularly in the corporate space, are on the edge, on the ledge of burnout. And I've had burnout and I fell off a stage in tears. And it took me months to get myself back together. I really believe that the hustle culture is an outdated notion. I think that we can work smarter. I think that, as I say, working on you like a full-time job is absolutely paramount.
So in essence, you can't do it on your own. You need help.
I think we need support, yeah. I mean, I've got an army of go-tos.
What, a female army? Is that female army going to come and...
Just think about it. I have got some male mentors as well.
Oh, good.
But, you know, spiritual healing, therapist, massage, physio, infrared sauna, whatever it might be, anything to make myself feel good. Why are you smoking like that? Massage, yeah, I know that probably wasn't a great one, but you get the point, you know.
Emma, thanks for coming to join us today on this show. It's been good talking to you.
Definitely.
Good luck with what you're doing. How do people get hold of you? How do they follow you? And how can people kind of like listen to your journey, but more importantly, maybe become part of it too?
Yes, I'm a big LinkedIner. I'm a top voice on LinkedIn. So generally I'm on there quite a lot. So you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Emma Burdett.
Okay. Have you got a website?
Yep. www.wildwomenlead.
Let me ask you the question again. Don't say WW. That's the olden days.
Is it? Well, no one asks for websites, do they?
Yeah. Well, have you got a website? www. And my fax number. What the fuck?
All right.
So have you got a website?
Not telling you. Wild Women Lead.
Wild Women
Am I allowed
Lead.
to say .com?
You can say .com.
Wildwomenlead.com. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Emma, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been lovely.